I wasn't invited to my own sister's wedding even after paying for it. She said I didn't fit the vibe. But the smile vanished from her face when the venue canceled everything at the last minute and she realized what I'd done. Before I go any further, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. And have you ever been used by family? Let me know, because what I'm about to tell you might sound familiar. I still remember the exact moment I found out. It wasn't through a heartfelt conversation or a mistake in the mail. No, I discovered I wasn't invited to my own sister's wedding the way someone finds out about a party they were never meant to know about. Through social media. I was sitting in my office at the shop, still in my work clothes, grease under my fingernails from the Mercedes I'd just finished. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I mindlessly scrolled through my phone, just trying to decompress after a 12-hour day. That's when I saw it. The post stopped me cold. It was a photograph. A beautifully designed invitation card with gold embossed lettering, delicately placed on white satin fabric. The kind of picture someone spends 20 minutes staging to get just right. And the caption read, "The countdown begins. Can't wait to celebrate with all my loved ones on the most special day of my life." My stomach dropped. All her loved ones. I kept staring at those words, my coffee going cold in my hand. The smell of motor oil clung to my shirt. The post already had 200 likes. Friends, relatives, colleagues, everyone gushing in the comments about how excited they were to be part of the big day. Someone even joked about how exclusive the guest list must be. Exclusive. That word hit different. I scrolled through my email. Nothing. I checked my spam folder. Nothing. I looked through the mail I'd brought in from my apartment that morning, stacked on the corner of my desk. Nothing. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe my invitation got lost. Maybe she just hadn't gotten around to sending it yet. After all, I had spent the last 6 months bending over backward to make sure she had the wedding of her dreams. I paid the $12,000 venue deposit when she and her fiancé Brett came up short. I covered the $7,500 catering advance when my parents hesitated. I even gave her $4,000 for a designer dress that, ironically, she hadn't even shown me yet. $23,500. That's what I'd put into this wedding. And I didn't have an invitation. The sick feeling started creeping in, spreading through my chest like ice water. I sent her a message. Nothing dramatic, nothing accusatory. Just simple, "Hey, I saw the post. I never got my invite. Did it get lost?" I stared at my phone, waiting for those 3 little dots to appear. They didn't. An hour passed. Then 2. By the time the sun set over the industrial park where my shop was located, casting long shadows across the concrete floor, I had convinced myself I was overreacting. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she just forgot to reply. It happens, right? And then at 10:34 at night, my phone finally buzzed. I picked it up, expecting an apology, maybe an explanation about a lost invitation. What I got instead made my blood run cold. "Hey, I was going to talk to you about this. I hope you understand, but we had to make some tough choices with the guest list. It's a very curated event, you know? We had to keep it elegant. No offense, but you don't really fit the vibe. I know you'll be happy for me from afar though. Love you. Curated event. Don't fit the vibe. Happy from afar." I read that message 3 times before it really sank in. The glow of my phone screen illuminated my face in the dark office. Outside, the parking lot was empty. Everyone had gone home hours ago. I was alone with those words burning into my retinas. I wasn't just forgotten. I was intentionally left out. And I knew exactly why. I wasn't like my sister Rachel's friends with their polished nails and expensive suits. I didn't work in an office with a shiny title or talk about investments over brunch. I owned an auto repair shop. A successful one. The kind that made very good money, especially since I specialized in luxury vehicles. But that didn't matter to my family. To them, I wasn't a businessman. I was just a grease-stained mechanic. A guy who always smelled like gasoline, whose hands were permanently rough from years of hard work. Rachel had always looked down on me for that. She thought real success meant sitting in an air-conditioned office wearing a suit, running what she called a respectable business. Not running a garage, no matter how much money it made. She never said it outright, but I saw it in her eyes every time I showed up to family dinners in my work clothes. The slight wrinkle of her nose when I walked in. The way she introduced me to her friends with a quick, dismissive, "Oh, my brother just runs some car shop," like I was an embarrassment. And now, after everything I had done for her, she had curated me out of her perfect little wedding. But what she didn't know was that this decision would cost her everything. And I mean everything. The next morning, I should have let it go. I should have accepted her text and moved on. But something pulled me to my parents' house. I told myself I was just going to pick up the tools I'd lent my father the week before. That's all. Just grab the tools and leave. I didn't announce myself when I arrived. The gravel crunched under my work boots as I approached the front door. I could smell coffee brewing inside, that familiar morning ritual my mother never missed. And then I heard voices coming from the kitchen. I froze. "Well, you know how he is," my mother was saying. Her tone carried that quiet disappointment I'd grown way too used to over the years. "I just don't want him embarrassing me," Rachel replied. "It's going to be a sophisticated event. I can't have him showing up looking like he just crawled out from under a car." My jaw clenched. I stood there in the hallway, my hand on the doorframe, listening. "He's family, Rachel." That was my dad, his voice weak, unconvincing. "Exactly," Rachel snapped back. "And he should understand that this isn't about him. I don't need him there making people uncomfortable. He doesn't belong in that kind of setting." Every word was a knife. But I needed to hear this. I needed to know exactly how they saw me. "Everyone there is from the corporate world," Rachel continued. "Lawyers, executives, people who actually network. What's he going to talk to them about? Carburetors? I can't have him there making my guests uncomfortable. This is my day." I had heard enough. Actually, I'd heard more than enough. I stood there for exactly 47 seconds, letting every syllable sink in. And then I pushed the door open and stepped into the kitchen. The room went dead silent. Rachel's coffee cup froze halfway to her mouth. My mother quickly busied herself stirring something on the stove that didn't need stirring. My father suddenly found the newspaper extremely interesting. "So that's how you see me," I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. Rachel's face went pale, then flushed red. "I didn't, you're taking that out of context." "Don't take it personally," she finally managed, straightening her shoulders like she was trying to salvage some dignity. "It's just not your kind of crowd." "My kind of crowd?" I repeated slowly, crossing my arms. The smell of my work clothes, that gasoline and motor oil scent they hated so much, suddenly felt like armor. "Come on, you know what I mean," she huffed. "Everyone there is from the corporate world. Lawyers, executives, people who actually network. You don't have anything in common with them. Right? Because I don't sit in an office and push paper all day, I must be too dumb to hold a conversation." "I never said that," she said quickly, but her face gave her away. My mother sighed, that same long-suffering sigh I'd heard my entire life. "Sweetheart, it's just a different kind of event. You have to admit, you do come off a little rough sometimes. You're always in those work clothes, and you don't carry yourself the way her guests do." I almost laughed. "I own a business. I make more money than half of those sophisticated people you're inviting. But because I don't wear a suit every day, I'm not good enough." Rachel groaned, throwing her hands up. "It's not about money. It's about image. Look, you helped a lot with the wedding, and I appreciate it. But this is my day. I need everything to be perfect. I just don't think you'd fit in." There it was. The truth laid bare on the kitchen table like a medical examiner's report. To them, I would always be the dirty mechanic. The embarrassment. The one who didn't fit their image of success. I exhaled slowly, nodding. "Got it." "Oh, don't be like that," my mother interjected quickly. "We'll have a nice family dinner after the honeymoon. Just us. That'll be more your style." I smiled. But it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had just made a decision that would change everything. "You're right," I said, reaching for my car keys. "That would be more my style. Because in my world, when someone helps you, you don't turn around and treat them like garbage." I walked out before they could say another word. The door closed behind me with a soft click that felt like a guillotine blade falling. As I drove back to my shop, the sun climbing higher in the sky, my phone started buzzing in the cup holder. I didn't answer. I already knew what it was. But I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. I needed to think. I needed to plan. By the time I pulled into my parking spot, I had already made my decision. For years, I'd been the family's safety net. The one they turned to when things got tough. The one who always said yes, no matter how much it cost me. I had convinced myself it was my duty, that it was what family did. But this was different. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about respect. About being valued instead of just being needed. And I was done accepting one without the other. My phone buzzed again. This time, I looked at it. A text from Rachel. "Don't make this a big deal, okay? You know I love you. Hope you can still help with the final payment for the cake. It's due Friday. XOXO. I laughed. I actually laughed so hard I had to pull back into a parking spot because my hands were shaking. She really thought I was still going to pay. After everything I'd just heard, after being explicitly told I wasn't good enough to attend, she thought I would just swallow my pride and keep funding her perfect day. She had no idea what was coming. I typed out my response carefully, each word deliberate. "Sorry, I wouldn't want to embarrass you by being associated with your wedding. I'm sure you'll figure it out without me. Good luck. No emojis. No fake kindness. Just a clear, unmistakable message. I hit send and watched the message turn blue. Delivered. Not even 5 minutes passed before my phone started ringing. Rachel's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Then my mother. Then my father. By the time I closed up the shop that night, securing the heavy metal door and setting the alarm, I had 12 missed calls. 12. But not a single apology. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of texts. Each one more desperate than the last, but none of them containing the words I needed to hear. Rachel, what do you mean you're not paying? The cake is already ordered. Rachel, you can't just back out. We're counting on you. My mother, sweetheart, don't be spiteful. It's just a misunderstanding. Let's talk. My father, we raised you better than this. I stared at my phone screen, the morning light streaming through my bedroom window. Not a single, I'm sorry we hurt you. Not one, we were wrong. Just expectations. Just the assumption that I would keep playing my role as the family ATM. I called Rachel. She picked up on the first ring. Oh my God, finally, she said, her voice sharp with panic. Listen, I don't know what's gotten into you, but you're acting crazy. You already agreed to pay. I changed my mind, I cut in. Silence. Complete, total silence. I changed my mind, I repeated slowly, letting each word land. I'm not paying another dime. You'll have to figure it out yourself. Are you serious right now? Her voice climbed an octave into a screech. You're really going to betray me like this? I couldn't help it. I laughed. Betray you? You mean like how you conveniently forgot to invite me because I don't fit the vibe of your wedding? Or how you and Mom were talking about me like I was some kind of embarrassment? That kind of betrayal? Oh my God, it's not the same thing, she huffed. That was about appearances. I didn't mean it in a bad way. But this? This is actual money. Real responsibility. And it's not my problem, I said calmly. You made it clear I don't belong. So I'm acting accordingly. Oh, don't be so dramatic, she snapped. You're just mad because you didn't get an invite. Grow up. I exhaled through my nose, keeping my temper in check. You know what's funny? You think I'm upset about the invitation. That's not it. It's the fact that you used me. You treated me like an ATM and still had the nerve to look down on me. That's what pisses me off. Oh, please, she scoffed. You have plenty of money. You wouldn't even miss it. And there it was. Not gratitude. Not remorse. Pure, blatant entitlement. You're right, I said, my voice going cold. I have plenty of money. And none of it is going to you. Ever again. Wait, she started, but I hung up. I didn't hear from her for the rest of that week. But my parents? They wouldn't let it go. By Saturday, the guilt trips were coming from every angle. My mother left crying voicemails. Your sister is under so much stress. Can't you just do this one thing? It's already planned. My father sent awkward texts, be the bigger person. What's a couple thousand to you? Family helps family. Family helps family. That phrase kept coming up like a mantra they'd all agreed on. So I finally responded. Family helps family? Funny. I don't remember any of you helping me when I was starting my business. Or when I was working 16-hour days to make sure I could afford everything on my own. Or when I paid for half of her wedding and still got treated like dirt. I sent it to all three of them in a group text. Silence. Then I added, you guys can figure this out. I'm out. I blocked their numbers and let them squirm. I expected more calls. More begging. But for 2 whole days, my phone stayed quiet. That's when I knew they weren't ignoring me out of anger. They were scrambling, trying to figure out how to replace the money I'd just ripped away from them. Trying to undo the damage of assuming I would always be there no matter how they treated me. And then, on the 3rd day, my mother showed up at my shop. She didn't call first. She just walked in, her heels clicking on the concrete floor, her eyes darting around at the cars being worked on, at my employees moving efficiently from one task to the next. She looked uncomfortable. Out of place. Like she'd rather be anywhere else. I wiped my hands on a rag and crossed my arms. Something wrong? We need to talk, she said, her voice tight. I gestured to my office. By all means. She walked inside and sat down in the chair across from my desk, folding her hands in her lap. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Your sister is in trouble, she finally said. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? Don't act like you don't know. I don't, I said, leaning back in my chair. But I have a feeling you're going to tell me. She exhaled sharply, like she was the one who had a right to be frustrated. The bakery won't release the wedding cake unless they get the rest of the payment. The venue is threatening to cancel the reception unless she settles the remaining balance. And she still hasn't finished paying the florist. I stayed quiet, letting her words hang in the air between us. The wedding is in 2 weeks, she pressed. And she doesn't have the money. She can't cover all this on her own. That's unfortunate, I said simply. She blinked at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. You have the money. You could help her. And you wouldn't even feel it. I gave her a slow smile. And yet here we are? Her nostrils flared. Stop being petty. You agreed to pay, and she planned everything around that agreement. You can't just pull out at the last second. You mean like how she planned her guest list without me? I tilted my head. Funny how that works. This isn't the same thing. Sure it is, I said calmly. She made a choice. I made mine. She wanted a wedding without me in it. Great. That means she doesn't need my money either. Oh, for God's sake, my mother muttered, rubbing her temples. I waited. Waited for her to try something new, to find a different angle. Instead, she let out a slow breath and sat up straighter, rallying. If you don't help her, she's going to have to downgrade everything. She'll be humiliated. People will talk. I laughed. I actually laughed. Now we're getting to the real problem. Her face darkened. It's not just about appearances. She deserves a beautiful wedding. She deserves exactly what she can afford, I corrected. And clearly, that's not the wedding she planned. Her lips pressed into a thin line. So that's it? You're just going to sit here and let your sister suffer? She's not suffering, I said flatly. She's getting a reality check. One that's long overdue. My mother stared at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she stood up, smoothed her blouse, and adjusted the strap of her purse. You'll regret this. I shrugged. Maybe. She left without another word. The door to my office closed behind her, and I watched through the window as she got into her car and drove away. I felt nothing. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just relief. Over the next few days, the cracks in Rachel's perfect wedding plan started to show publicly. First, she posted a vague status on Facebook. It's so hard when people you count on let you down. But I guess that's life, right? I ignored it. Then I got a call from a mutual cousin, someone I hadn't talked to in months. Dude, what's going on? Your sister's freaking out. She said you bailed on paying for the wedding. That's correct, I said simply. But why? Because she didn't invite me. Silence. Then, oh. Yeah. Okay. I get that. The next day, Rachel texted me directly, can we talk? I waited an hour before replying. Talk about what? I don't want things to be like this between us. Can we meet for coffee? I almost laughed. She didn't want things to be like this. The same sister who had deliberately excluded me from the most important day of her life because I didn't fit her image. She didn't want things to be like this because it was inconvenient for her. But I was curious. So I agreed. When I arrived at the coffee shop, she was already there, her manicured nails tapping against her cup. She gave me a hesitant smile as I sat down. Hey, she said softly. Hey. She sighed dramatically, like she was about to deliver a rehearsed speech. Look, I know you're upset. I'm not upset, I interrupted. I just finally see things clearly. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means I get it now. I'm useful when you need something. But the second I become an inconvenience to your perfect little world, you toss me aside. That's not fair, she protested. Isn't it? I leaned back in my chair. You didn't think I was good enough to be at your wedding. But my money was good enough. You can't have it both ways. She pursed her lips, looking away. I just wanted everything to be perfect. And I did think you'd understand. Well, now you know. She hesitated, her fingers drumming against the table. Then she looked at me with what I can only describe as calculated hope. If I invite you now, will you help? I smiled. Then I stood up. Enjoy your wedding, sis, I said. But you'll have to figure it out without me. And I walked out. Okay, pause right here. I need to know what you would do. Comment 1 if you think I was wrong to pull my support. Comment 2 if you think my sister deserved exactly what she got. And comment 3 if you think I should have done even more. Drop your number in the comments right now. The morning of Rachel's wedding, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. No stress. No guilt. No obligations. For the first time, I wasn't burdened by their expectations. I had no reason to rush around fixing last-minute problems. No one was calling me to cover extra costs or begging me to step in and save the day. Because I wasn't invited. And because I had finally stopped caring. But apparently, my family hadn't stopped caring about my money. At 11:27 that morning, my mother called. I let it ring. At 11:42, my father tried. I ignored it. And then at 12:03, my phone lit up with a text from my cousin. Bro, you're not going to believe this. The venue just kicked them out. I stared at the screen. And then I laughed. The disaster I had warned them about was happening in real time. My sister had assumed someone, anyone, would step in at the last second. But no one did. Without the final payment, the venue canceled. The staff literally locked the doors while guests were arriving. 75 people in tuxedos and cocktail dresses, standing in a parking lot, confused and checking their phones. The wedding planner was scrambling to explain. Rachel was hysterical. The fancy 5-tier cake? Never delivered. The high-end floral arrangements? Cancelled. The high-profile wedding she had bragged about for months? Gone. At 1:15, Rachel finally called me. I picked up. "What?" I said, my voice flat. "Are you happy now?" she screamed. I leaned back in my chair, genuinely amused. "About what?" "You know exactly what," she snapped. "Oh," I said casually. "You didn't have enough money?" "You knew we didn't have enough money." Her voice cracked with rage and desperation. "You were supposed to help. You promised." I chuckled. "No. You assumed." Silence. "You let me fail," she finally said, her voice shaking. "No," I corrected. "You failed all on your own." And then, for the first time, she broke. Really broke. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why couldn't you just help? After everything we've been through? After everything I've done?" My patience snapped. "Everything you've done? You mean like using me for years? Like taking my money without a second thought? Like treating me like garbage the second I wasn't useful to you?" "I didn't mean it like that," she muttered weakly. "You never do," I said coldly. "That's the problem." The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. "So this is it?" Her voice wavered. "You're really just going to walk away?" "I already did," I said. "You just didn't notice until now." And I hung up. The wedding was moved to a relative's backyard at the last second. No extravagant decorations. No 5-star catering. Just a last-minute setup with whatever they could throw together. I heard Rachel spent the entire night trying to hold back tears, too humiliated to even enjoy her own wedding. I didn't reach out. I didn't apologize. I didn't check in. I let them figure it out on their own. For once. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. But the story doesn't end there. What happened over the next year showed me that I'd made the right choice. A week after the wedding, Rachel posted another vague status: "Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most betray you in your darkest hour." The comments section exploded. But this time, not in her favor. Friends who'd been at the wedding started commenting with questions. Family members who'd heard the full story began chiming in. And then someone, I never found out who, shared screenshots of text messages between Rachel and her friends where she'd mocked me, called me the grease monkey, and joked about how I probably doesn't even know which fork to use. The narrative shifted. Fast. Within days, people weren't seeing me as the heartless brother. They were seeing Rachel as the entitled sister who'd used her own family. 1 month later, my parents showed up at my house. I hadn't answered their calls in weeks, so they decided an ambush was the better option. They demanded I fix this with Rachel. She was devastated, they said. Depressed. I needed to help her because she was struggling financially now that the wedding had drained what little savings she and Brett had. I stood in my doorway and looked at them. Really looked at them. These people who'd raised me but never quite saw me. "She's devastated that her actions had consequences," I said calmly. "That's not my problem." "She's your sister," my mother cried. "Then maybe she should have treated me like her brother instead of her embarrassment." I shut the door. They pounded on it for a while, but eventually, they left. And they didn't come back. 3 months later, I got an unexpected call. It was Brett, Rachel's husband. They were separated, he told me. Heading toward divorce. His parents couldn't get past the wedding disaster and had been pressuring him to end things. The humiliation of that day had infected their entire relationship. "I didn't know the full extent of how she treated you," Brett said quietly. "I thought you couldn't make it because of work." That's what she told me. "She lied to both of us," I said. "Yeah." He paused. "I'm sorry, man. You were right about everything." "I appreciate that," I said. We talked for a few more minutes before the call ended. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. A year after the wedding, I can tell you this, my parents finally accepted that I wasn't going to change my mind. At first, they tried guilt. Then anger. Then silence. Now, they treat me carefully. Like they finally understand that if they push too hard, I'll walk away permanently. Rachel never apologized. But she also never asked me for money again. I consider that a win. As for me, I'm still running my business. Still doing just fine. Better than fine, actually. I expanded to a second location 6 months ago. And every dollar I earn stays mine. I learned something important through all of this. Being needed and being valued are two completely different things. For years, I was needed. I was the go-to guy when someone had a problem or needed cash. But I wasn't valued. I wasn't respected. I wasn't seen as an equal. And I refused to settle for that ever again. My sister wanted a wedding without me because I didn't fit her aesthetic. Fine. She got exactly what she paid for. Which, as it turned out, wasn't much. Was I wrong? Maybe. But I don't think so. Because standing up for yourself isn't wrong. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. And refusing to let people use you doesn't make you the villain. It makes you free. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you want more real stories about standing up for yourself when family crosses the line. And drop a comment below, have you ever had to cut off toxic family members? What happened? I genuinely want to hear your stories because you're not alone in this.